Scandinavian Bob here, hi. Alright, it's time for book number 2 in my book review series, and today we are going to take a look at the book Digital Discipline, Choosing Life in the Digital Age of Excess, a new book written by Howard Mella. Howard is an author, high-performance coach and electrical engineer, and to use his own words from his website, he says he is, quote, just a guy who loves to write and share insights from his path to living a better life, unquote. Alright, so I'm not even going to wait before I share my opinion on this book, and so right away from the start I have to say I really like this book. This book is going to be highly relevant for pretty much everyone living in today's modern world. Now, if you by looking at the title somehow got the idea that this book is all about never using your digital devices again, and that the author somehow preaches total digital abstinence, you are wrong. And this is the first thing that makes this book so great. You see, Howard distinguishes between something he calls passive digital use and digital discipline, and that most of us would do better if we could drastically reduce the amount of passive digital use. Yeah, and I'll give you an example of that in just a second, but the reason for this is that Howard believes that too much passive digital use can rob us of drive and motivation, and also that it comes at the expense of forming relationships in the real world, and ultimately it can undermine our joy and happiness in life. And I personally 100% agree with Howard here, of course, because that's exactly what too much aimless dopamine-driven digital use can do to us. In fact, the book is divided into 2 parts, and in part 1, Howard goes into great detail about why passive digital use is so bad for us, how it can affect us, and the science behind why that is. Yeah, in part 1 of the book, he talks a lot about the dopamine system and how important it is for pretty much every aspect of our lives to not let it get desensitized and hijacked by cheap dopamine, like for example endless social media scrolling and binging on porn. And so now some of you say, but what does passive versus disciplined use look like? Well, Howard says that digital discipline means that we should have a purpose with why we go online, and then do that thing without getting distracted and start wandering off to something else and, for example, aimlessly start following a social media feed for an hour or 2. It is the getting distracted part and the aimlessness that is passive digital use. In other words, we should use the digital world in a way that serves a purpose for us in a productive or a meaningful way. Now keep in mind, Howard says that does not mean that entertainment in and of itself has to be classified as passive use. For example, watching a few comic videos somewhere online can still be very healthy use if you find it fun and avoid overindulging, or watching a video lecture or something like that. But if you then get distracted and start clicking on the next recommended video on YouTube, and then you suddenly find yourself wasting hours on that, having wandered completely off your intended goal, well then you're definitely engaging in passive use. So I guess you could ask yourself, are you using your device or is your device using you? Here's a good example and a quote from the book. Quote, for some people, having a digital dating profile may be beneficial if they use it proactively to reach a specific goal. For others, it can be damaging if they scroll the platform for hours and stare at bikini photos rather than trying to set up dates. We should strive to cut off all digital habits and uses where the drawbacks outweigh the benefits, unquote. Yeah, and I could not agree with Howard more, and I think all of my long-term subscribers understand exactly why that is. And this book keeps getting better and better because in part 2 of the book, Howard will show you how you can implement behavior change into your life and how to build this digital discipline. So the second part of the book is a bit more how-to focused, where he also gives you a lot of practical tips, advice and tools, which is great. But don't get me wrong here, there is still plenty of interesting science about the brain, dopamine, serotonin, why we do what we do, and things like that in part 2 as well. And not just that, Howard also talks about happiness, joy, and finding purpose in life. And at the end of each chapter, Howard also includes some exercises for you to do. And I like these very much because they do a great job of increasing your awareness of, for example, your digital habits. Yes, you will for sure get a lot of aha moments here. I can promise you that. And increased awareness in and of itself will also make it easier for you to change your digital habits as well. Howard does a great job with laying out the science. He's an excellent writer and he writes in a way that makes you think and really has an effect on you. The second part of the book will really make you understand, and not just understand but also feel on a deeper level how precious your time is, and you will actually get a strong urge to stop wasting it, which is great, of course. And throughout the whole book, perhaps a bit more in the first part, Howard also shares his own story about his past struggles with all of this, and he openly tells you about how it affected him. This adds even more depth to the book, and no matter from what perspective I look at it, it just works really, really well. All in all, I'm going to give this book a strong 9.5 out of 10. Yes, I highly recommend this book to everyone living in today's modern world. It will both serve as motivation and as a guide or a teacher how you can create and cultivate digital discipline and, as the title says, start choosing life in the digital age of excess. Yes, and so you can find links to this book under the video, and these are not affiliate links, by the way. And you may perhaps recognize Howard's name from before. A couple of years ago I did a review on his first book called How to Thrive in the 21st Century by Avoiding Porn and Other Distractions, which is also a great book that I highly recommend. And so if you're interested in taking a look at that book review, you can see it on the screen right here. Just click on that and you can discover more about that book over there. This is Scandinavian Bob signing out for today. Consider subscribing for more book reviews and I will see you in the next one.